And we are live here on the Outlaw Sports Network. We present to you another episode of UnHinged. Today I got the same guest as always here, back in the great state of North Carolina. We got Cody Montanaro. How you doing?
Besides spilling some blood this morning, I think I'm all right. I'll find out if I'm dying later tonight, but that'll be okay. It's all right.
All right, and in Tennessee, we have joining us Jake Brock. How's it going?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
All right, so first, before we really get started, today's going to be a basically all-football show. But we want to send congrats out to your now reigning MLB champions, the Houston Astros. Any comments from you guys on that real quick?
Hell of a World Series.
Yeah, I would say top 5 easily, the best World Series in the history of baseball. I like I was telling the guys before we went on air, I went to visit the SunTrust Park for the first time this season, the new home of the Braves, and I went to 2 games. And they both played the Astros and got clobbered both games. And met a couple fans after the second game, and I said, man, you guys got a hell of a team. I said, y'all better go all the way. I said, with this team, and they're like, we'll see. So kind of a weird kind of coincidence how that happened. So just overall, really, really, really awesome team. Really great team.
Absolutely, and I think Houston has their sports teams are improved. Astros are completely rebuilt, which I think goes against the notion that you have to pay for your team. Like, everyone's like, oh, the Yankees buy players, they buy their championships. Well, the Astros showed we can rebuild them through the draft. And
not only them, but you think a couple years ago to the Royals, they were the laughing stock of MLB and went to 2 back-to-back World Series?
Yep.
One, lost one?
And then the Cubs did the same thing. So
yeah.
it's really showing, hey, money doesn't buy it. The Dodgers, even
I would say Braves fans, we were on that same track until what's been going down with the whole international pool signing scandal thing. But, we'll see what happens.
But even like for the city of Houston, they got bright hopes, and the NFL team, with Deshaun being there and the amazing things that are going. Even though they're 3-4 now, it's going to take some time for the.
They're easily the best 3-4 team in the league.
Absolutely. I think if they can beat Jacksonville, they win that division.
Did you just say if they beat Jacksonville?
Hey, Jacksonville's a decent team, Cody.
So is Seattle, and take away some of the defensive errors from the Texans, they should have won that game. When you got DW4 as your quarterback, you got a chance to win every game this year.
You're right. And then the basketball team with everything. Again, I don't really follow NBA anymore, but Chris Paul and all that coming over. Bright things coming for the city of Houston.
No, they need a hockey team. They'll be good.
I mean, I think the closest they got is Dallas, and they're
Yeah, they suck.
Yeah. All right, so on to some football talk. The trade deadline for the NFL just passed, and we got, as far as I can count, only 3 deals went through over the deadline.
So we're talking.
Yeah, let's talk about that now that you brought it up. It should have been 4. But the trade between the Bengals and the Browns that would have sent A.J. McCarron over to the Browns was accepted, but the Browns forgot to fax it into the NFL. Is there anything more that the Browns can do to show that they shouldn't be a football team? Like,
I'm telling you, I don't know how in the world you could really call yourself a Browns fan and expect people not to just look at you, put their hand on their shoulder, and go, "I am so sorry," and we fought for you.
It's all right. There's some of the most faithful fans out there.
That's true.
But the 3 that actually went through, we'll go in the order of how they were announced. So, my New England Patriots traded Jimmy Garoppolo to the San Francisco 49ers for a second-round pick, and eventually we would sign Brian Hoyer. He was supposed to be traded in the trade. But the 49ers didn't want to give up their compensatory pick, so we just said, fine. We'll assign them after you release them. Anyway. Garoppolo, now, is he the starter? Do you think they play Beathard for the rest of the year and then re-sign Jimmy G because his contract's out?
I think for now they'll start Beathard. He's proved a lot, at least. Well, I mean, I didn't really watch the Eagles 49ers game, but 2 weeks ago when we played him, he looked good in that offense, especially in the no huddle. I think they give it. I think they just give it to CJ in general, just so because he's more familiar with the offense, more familiar with the playbook. I think they give a couple weeks for Garoppolo to understand the playbook and stuff. Then they might. I mean, they're already 0-6, 0-7. Not 0-8. They're not gonna make it to the playoffs anyway, so they'll probably tamper around with going back and forth between Beathard and Garoppolo and seeing how they both perform, so that way they can truly make a decision at the end of the year if they need to draft a quarterback, if they're going to sign one of the two, or at least make them starters. So, I think they'll just tamper around with them, see which one they feel more comfortable with.
Yeah, I mean that's true. I just see Jimmy G as the future quarterback there in San Fran. Though he's going to be their future quarterback.
Absolutely. So, being a Patriots fan, at first I was confused because I would have just left Brady as the only quarterback. And I was confused because there's no good quarterbacks in free agency. And I totally forgot that Hoyer even existed. And then they were like, oh, yeah, we signed Brian Hoyer again. I was like, okay. But New England fans were going crazy because we apparently just gave up the next Tom Brady, apparently. But I like the trade because Garoppolo was never going to play. Brady has at least 3 years left. At least that's the way the Patriots are at least treating the situation, as if Brady has at least 3 more years left. And hopefully by that time the Patriots can go draft a new quarterback. Hopefully it's Trevor Lawrence out of Clemson in 3 years. The best high school football player in the country. But with that said, I think it's good for both parties. Patriots get more draft picks to work on our needs, and Jimmy G gets a chance to show what he really has. I think he's a starter quarterback who was just limited to a system with the best of all time where he would never play. So the next trade, which is probably the most confusing out of all of them, is the Eagles get like their 12th running back on the team, trading a 4th-round pick for Jay Ajayi in a trade that makes absolutely no sense. On either side, for the Dolphins only getting a 4th-round pick for probably easily one of the better running backs in the league. And then the Eagles picking up another running back when they have other needs, especially on the offensive line.
Well, I think when you're 7-1, you can do just about any kind of trade you really want to. And I think that's just what the Eagles are looking for. I think they want to just make the running game a little bit more strong. Yeah, they got Blunt. And they got who's that other?
They got Smallwood, don't they?
Yeah, Smallwood. That's it.
Smallwood.
Towards the, the only thing I can think of is they're trying to mimic Washington and throw in our face that we can have more than 3 running backs in a system and it'll work, because it doesn't work for us. But I really don't know. I think it's just to complement. Maybe it's just something else to use as further trade bait down the line, more towards the draft. And you can also use them, you can use one of those 3, if not all 3 of them, in different roles too. Some better pass protectors, some for actual, 3rd and shorts or goal line situations, passing games. So I think maybe it's just more of a complementary to Carson Wentz to further better the offense. So maybe that's what that's all about.
Yeah, I think it opens up the playbook a lot more. Puts LeGarrette Blount where he needs to be. Got the ball within, the 15-yard line. LeGarrette Blount's coming in the ball game. kind of doing a Patriots type thing. That's what kind of see the Eagles doing. But yeah, it was the craziest trade. I looked at it and I was like, a 4th-round pick for Jay Ajayi. Huh. That's kind of weird. But, I mean, he's a talented back, very, very talented running back. But he's going to be dangerous with the Eagles. He's going to be very dangerous.
Absolutely. That Eagles team, especially with Zeke actually getting suspended now for the next 6 games.
Nah, that's the team that's going to win the NFC East. I mean, they're going to win it.
Yeah, without unless the worst choke ever happens, the Eagles win that. I think become the 1 seed in the NFC. And then finally, the last big trade that was made right before the deadline, the Buffalo Bills trade for Kelvin Benjamin, which set the city of Charlotte on fire because everyone was upset. What do you guys think on that? We'll go to Jake first since he's the Panthers fan. Your thoughts?
No need to hit the panic button. There's no need. Panther fans everywhere need to realize that Kelvin Benjamin has not been the same since the ACL injury. I told everybody last year, the first game of the year against Denver, he caught that pass again on the sideline. He got hit in the knee, came straight out of the game. Scared to get hit. Put on that weight this year, coming into training camp, like you was talking about off the air. You say 240s, about 250, 255. He came in, was just overweight. Still scared to play. There was a lot of issues going on within the locker room. I know once we fired Dave Gettleman and got Hurney back, he kind of didn't, wasn't clicking with the coaches and stuff like that. He walked out of practice, I think, 2 weeks ago. I like the trade. I mean, at first I couldn't understand it, but you got Devin Funchess, who's a great number 1, who can be a very, very good number 1 wide receiver in this league. 2, you got Christian McCaffrey, who's going to play a Julian Edelman role. I've said that since the draft, and that's the way they need to play him. They need to play him like a Julian Edelman. This gives him more time playing the slot. You got guys like Curtis Samuel and Dimitri Berg going to step up. Plus, it's going to open up a running game. We're not going to use McCaffrey as much in the running game as we got Cameron Artis-Payne, who did really good this past week, better than Jonathan Stewart. I think he's the next one. I think he should have got traded, honestly. I like Jonathan Stewart. I have nothing wrong with him, but he's just getting old and can't run. When you have the Bears that can stop you on defense like they did against us 2 weeks ago, man, I mean, I think that's what really showed. I mean, Kelvin Benjamin, the reason why he got traded, and I want to say this, and then I'm done with it, can't get separation. When you can't get separation, you're too big, you're too slow, and every time he does catches the ball, it looks like he's got a size shoes that's like a size up in a pair of shoes, like he's running in cement. It's just hard to watch. Hopefully he does great in Buffalo. I really do. Maybe it'll be a turning point in his career that he needs. It sucks that, it came on Halloween. His mom just passed away this past year, and he played his first game back in Tampa, back in the state of Florida. So that kind of, was, but it's a business and it happens. And the Panthers just got to move forward, and we got the weapons to do it. We're 5-3. We're better than a lot of teams out there right now. So, but we got a big game this weekend against Atlanta, so we'll see how that works out. I'm excited for this offense. I really am. It's going to open up the playbook a ton.
Cody, your thoughts?
I think that with the whole, it just seemed like, and according to, I think it was a radio report that he had some kind of, and I think maybe you mentioned it too, that he had some kind of scuffle at practice recently.
Yeah.
That probably, behind the scenes, we don't know what was going on. We don't know what went on with him and management and coaches and stuff like that and the staff. We don't know. Unless they bring it out to the open, we're not going to understand it. And from what I know, the GM, that he didn't go to Cam for it. He basically just used his personnel and the staff and the coaches to decide this trade. And, if you have a disgruntled wide receiver that's not getting a whole lot of playing time and is getting frustrated and having scuffles like that, in a season where you guys can't really afford to miss out on too much because the Falcons and the Saints. This is a very NFC South is one of the most tightly competitive divisions right now. I think a lot of people are underestimating the Saints just because they're 5-2. I mean, everybody's talking about Carolina and Atlanta. Saints are first in that division. Yeah. And so when you have those three tightly contested teams, the margin for error is starting to get really, really thin now that we're starting to get into November. So I think that it's good to get them out of the way now, so that way you guys can just focus more on football and get that out of the way. Hopefully nothing will come out of this that's bad on either side of it. So you guys can focus back on playing football and, just bettering your team and going for that division title.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say this. It's like Steve Smith said yesterday, what I read yesterday about Steve Smith, or what Steve Smith said. And Steve Smith hit it right on the head. Smitty said that, you can't have two big guys like that. You can't have two 6'5" guys like that. Especially, at first I was all for it. I was excited for it. I guess, they're calling us the Twin Towers or calling them the Twin Towers. And now, one's gone, but I think we kept the best one out of the bunch. In my personal opinion, Devin Funchess is the best one out of the bunch. But like Steve Smith said, just slow, couldn't, break away from his man, and it's time for him to go. It was time. Maybe, like I said, he hopefully has a good year in Buffalo. And plus, another reason why we got rid of him, he wanted $8 million and I know he's on his rookie contract. This was his last year. He's going to be a free agent anyways. It really didn't matter if he produced or not. And I think right now with this trade deadline halfway into the year, the numbers haven't been there. Just everything hasn't been there for him. And I feel bad for him, but at the same time, like I said, it's a business. You got to do what you got to do. And if you can't get separation from a cornerback and you're 6'5" and you're having trouble getting the ball like from these little short defenders, then you need to go. Just go on somewhere. Buffalo will take you. Have a good shot there. Good luck to you in Buffalo.
Right.
Absolutely. And I'll put my 2 cents. I feel the same way. If, like Jake said, after the ACL injury, just hasn't been able to get that bounce that he had at Florida State, where he was one of the top wide receivers in the country. But you got an offense that this has been able to produce. I mean, like you said, you lost to the Bears. You just got you got embarrassed by a Bears defense that they've been playing okay, but Panthers should have easily had that game.
No chunk plays, man. That's what's been lacking. We have no chunk plays.
Yep, and then I think Cam's getting a little frustrated, and I'm sure he had part in this. I think it was just like you said, it's a business decision. You're in probably the most tightly contested division in football right now, and something had to happen. And I think it was a good move for the Panthers. And
life goes on. Life goes on. That's all it is, man. Life goes on.
And you're going to a Bills team where you're gonna start. You're the number one receiver because they got Matthews, and that's about it. So, I think now he doesn't have to live in the light of Cam Newton getting off, and Cam Newton can be himself again, be able to, and I hope the offense performs. Carolina's a good team at it. Benjamin, I think, was just a heavy weight on the system, and something had to be done, and so this is what they decided to do. And with that, we move. So off air, we were talking about this. They didn't know we were going to talk about this on air. We've talked about this a lot over the last couple episodes. Now we add another name to college football coaches that are basically done, and that's Florida. So Florida and Tennessee are the two schools. Now, we've talked about like potential people and will these people get fired. Now I want your prediction on who each team, Tennessee and Florida, actually chooses as their new head coach. We'll start with Cody.
Repeat the question again. I'm sorry. I totally just had a brain fart.
All right, so Florida, I think, already fired their head coach. They used their defensive coordinator as their intern. And then Tennessee, if they're smart, would fire Butch Jones. So those two schools are really the big names that are looking for new head coaches. Your prediction for each school on who they sign as the head coach for those teams?
You know, it wouldn't surprise me either or, whether it's Florida or Tennessee. If you hear the name Les Miles, go to either one of them. He's been out there for a little while, and I think Les Miles is a really good coach. So, that definitely could. I think that he would be more fitting for a Florida team because that's kind of built like an LSU, where the defense is mainly the biggest strong point of that team, and the offense gets kind of built more of a pro-style type offense. Usually you're using your running backs just because they don't have much of an offense over there in Florida. With Tennessee, man, I feel bad for anybody who has to go to Tennessee just because you go from being ranked in the top 25 one week to losing to blowouts, 41-0, and then you keep losing and keep losing. And, I don't know. I'm trying to think who I think best would fit it. Not really if, you got people, places who could go there, and you don't want to throw too many names out. But like I said, Les Miles definitely at LSU's. Chip Kelly could definitely be an option over at Tennessee, especially with him going back to a college, seeing hopefully he won't get in any trouble because that's how he got out of, going to Oregon and going to Philadelphia. But Chip Kelly could definitely be somebody that I could definitely see going over there. Really I think probably the second best person in my opinion would definitely be Gundy out of Oklahoma State. Just Tennessee is still a very predominant program, not only in the SEC but in college football. So you can use that to your advantage. And some coaches want that challenge of having to rebuild the program and really making it the team that it should be, and not this overrated hype up team that loses every year and falls short of expectations. They say everything about Clemsoning. They should probably come up with a volunteering to lose. Volunteering to be overrated, stuff like that. But yeah, those probably be my two top ones for Tennessee would be Gundy and Chip Kelly. But definitely for Florida, I think you're looking more towards Les Miles, maybe.
All right, Jake, your input.
I think that's a good hire with Florida with Les Miles, but I think they might go look at Memphis coach. I've heard rumors about that. It'd be a good fit for him. Les Miles, same way. I think it'd be a good fit. Just that Florida job, it's, you say the name Florida, everybody knows Florida football, big football program. So I see that job getting filled probably before the Tennessee job does, for sure. Even though I would rank Tennessee probably higher than Florida in football, but just because of the program prestige. But at the same time, they're both right there together. But I think that Florida job gets done first, and then Tennessee. With Tennessee, you look at it like this. Reports are coming out now that Butch Jones he played a player last week in the Kentucky game, had a concussion, made him play through it. I know the AD's trying to talk him out. Well, let's say Butch Jones' agent's talking to the AD at Tennessee, wanting to fire him. I actually want to buy his contract out because apparently Butch Jones has 4 offers at different schools. I don't see how. But if somebody does take the Tennessee job, like I've said it before, there's only probably really 2 big names that Tennessee can go after. And if they do, they got to dump the money truck. And that's, like I said, Chip Kelly and John Gruden. And people's going to think I'm crazy always for saying John Gruden. But when you live here in Tennessee, that's the name you're going to hear is John Gruden. John Gruden. But if they're going to get him, dump the money truck on him or Chip Kelly. I think the offense is more set for Chip Kelly than it is John Gruden, but I could see John Gruden making that his own, I don't know, kind of basically being his own offense. But I see Chip Kelly with that offense being really, really, really good. But I don't know. Like I said, John Gruden, if you're wanting John Gruden, just dump that money truck on him. I think he's done with the ESPN. I really do. Everything that's going on with the ESPN right now, as Clay Travis puts, ESPN is like Blockbuster. You know, they're dying slowly. They're dying very slowly. And so I think John Gruden will want out of ESPN here very, very soon because of Monday Night Football, the way they might be losing Monday Night Football, ESPN, that is. So I think I see John Gruden leaving and maybe trying to go to Tennessee. It would be a perfect opportunity for him. I know people here in Tennessee would love it. And, you know, we beat them last week, and we'll take that win any way we can. Because now we can say we finally beat them with a quarterback. A hell of a quarterback. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. I know you are Clemson fans, but look, Kentucky has not had a great – well, I shouldn't say great – a good quarterback since 2007 with Andre Woodson. Steven Johnson is a good quarterback, a hell of a quarterback. When you're the first quarterback, I'll throw this stat at you, and you all are going to be like, are you serious? You're probably seeing it on my Facebook. He's the first quarterback to beat Tennessee and Louisville since 1924.
Wow.
1924. Wow. You have a quarterback that beat two of your rivals and has a chance to beat Louisville again this year. Louisville's not that good. Louisville does not impress me. Louisville does not impress me, but Steven Johnson, I think I want to just hit on Kentucky real quick. They played great, I think. I know we're talking about Tennessee and the coaching job, but with Kentucky, I think they're playing great. Got to give mad props to Steven Johnson. Came out of that ball game and came back to win the game. You don't see many quarterbacks doing that. I thought he was hurt. He came out in a sling. He's not practicing. I don't know if he's practicing this week or not. I know as of Monday he was not practicing, but Steven Johnson's the man. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to miss him a lot. I'm going to miss him a lot after this year, but yeah, Steven Johnson's the man. I've enjoyed Steven Johnson the past 2 years. We've had him for 2 years. I've enjoyed him. He's gotten better. He's gotten really, really good. He's at least in the top 5 quarterbacks in the SEC. That's me throwing it out there because just the way he plays. Kid has heart. I mean, he really does. He has heart, and that's what you want. A leadership guy like that who takes everything to heart. So, but like I said, with Tennessee, you're losing. So Knoxville, all my friends that live in Knoxville, around this area, around Knoxville, you lost to a fake football program. I want to be a football program, but, you know, you all said it first, fake football program. Where you all at, you know? Yeah. So if we lose to you guys, I guess, you know, Tennessee, if we lose Tennessee in basketball, I guess we could say we lost to a fake basketball school.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
And so to my predictions, I'll go with Florida first, and I see where Cody's going with Les Miles, but I've read reports that they're really big on Mike Norvell, which is Memphis' coach. Memphis, I think they're actually in the top 25.
They are.
He's a really good coach in replacing, who was it, Fuentes, who he replaced?
Yeah.
So Memphis is one of those teams that are good because of the conference there, and if they were in a top 5 conference, it'll be a different story. But I think Mike Norvell goes there to fill that Florida job. And with Tennessee, I've read reports that I'm going with John Gruden, and I've read reports that they're going to make him the highest paid college coach, even more paid than Saban. I've heard as much as $15 million a year that they're going to offer Gruden, which is the only way you're going to get him. But I do see Gruden said that was his dream job, and I do think he leaves ESPN. ESPN's become a joke of all sports broadcasting just because they politicize everything. I go John Gruden there to Tennessee and Mike Norvell to Florida.
It's an interesting choice. Interesting choices.
So on Tuesday, the college football playoff rankings, the first one of the year, finally came out. And some surprises, at least to me, on the top 4. So in order, we have 1 being Georgia, 2 being Bama, 3 being Notre Dame, 4 being Clemson. What are your guys' take on that top 4?
I'll let Jake go first. I'll let him go first on that one.
I mean, I think it's personally I like it. I mean, you can flip flop Georgia and Bama 1-2 all you want. Having Notre Dame in there, I guess people say, "Oh, it's a shock to me having Notre Dame in there." But Notre Dame's played good football. They've really played good football. This is just like you guys with Clemson. That does not surprise me that you all was in the top 4 at all. I mean, of course, you did lose to Syracuse, but I think at the end of the day, your resume looks better than a lot of other one-loss teams. Kind of like with Notre Dame, same way. The resume looks better. You know, that's what we all talk about. You know, it comes down. It's kind of like college basketball. You know, you look at your resume, you look at the work you've done, teams you played against, and all that. And the top 4, that is your top 4. I mean, I know people, well, what about Ohio State? You know, they beat Penn State. You know, this, that, and the other. But those 4 teams right there have been consistent all year long. Like I said, you know, me and Cody talked about it on Facebook that night that you all lost to Syracuse. But it happens. You know, freaky stuff happens. But I think it's a good top 4. I hope it stays like that because I'd like to see Notre Dame in the playoffs. That'd be interesting to me. I think it would. It would just be really interesting. With having 2 SEC teams in there, really doesn't surprise me, but Georgia is becoming the Alabama of the East, of the SEC East, very quickly. And it's not happening all year by year. It's happening overnight. It's going fast. So, like I said, I like the top 4. I agree with it 100%. I think all 4 teams have the resume better than anybody else. And now you just got to the top 4 just got to play and keep winning. If they just keep winning, it's it. Now, granted that one of the teams, either Georgia or Alabama, is going to be knocked out of the top 4 because you know they're going to play each other in the SEC championship game.
All right, so just real quick, so you think if let's just say it stays the same way, they win out, Georgia versus Bama, you think the loser gets knocked out? Or
I think the loser gets knocked out.
Because I've heard a lot of people say the loser stays in just because the resume will be so good.
Right. It depends. You know, like I said, it depends. It depends on the score of the game as well.
Absolutely.
It depends on that score. You know, if let's just say Alabama comes out and waxes the floor of Georgia. Say Georgia loses, let's just say 35-14. Okay, that's knocking Georgia out of the top 4. That there's no way, because you should be competing against, you know, an Alabama team that you're similar to. But yeah, I think that loser might, depending on the score, will lose, get out of the top 4. But like you said, it might not happen. They could play each other, and one could, you know, like I said, Alabama goes to 1 and Clemson goes to 3, Notre Dame goes to 2, and then you have Georgia at 4. You know, or you can flip flop it around however you want to, but I don't know. It just comes down to the SEC title game to me. I think that's when you really – right now, your top 2 safe teams is Notre Dame and Clemson. That's your top – in Alabama. Alabama is a safe 2. But until – we'll got to see what Georgia can do. I know they got a couple games here left on. I think they got to play Georgia Tech still. I think that's – yeah.
That's the last game of the season.
Yeah, it's the last game. Okay, so like I said, I want to just look at Georgia's – I don't even know if Georgia plays this weekend. Okay, yeah, they do. They play South Carolina. But who did they play?
It's an easy win.
They have Auburn.
They got Auburn next week.
At Auburn.
Yeah, and then they got us, you know, in Georgia, which that could be a win for Georgia. And then they got Georgia Tech I guess it might be at Georgia Tech, or I could think they played at a neutral site. But the Auburn game is really the only game that just sticks out to me for Georgia. Georgia can lose that game. If they do, then it wouldn't matter. It comes down to
either
championship down. It won't matter then, unless teams in front of them start losing.
Absolutely.
I think Miami should have been ranked higher. I know they're at 10, aren't they?
Somewhere like that, yeah.
I think they should have been at least 7th or 8th. That's where I think Miami should have been. Miami's played good football. Very good football. Surprised me. That's the team that surprised me all year long. That's your sleeper team, too, to probably get in the top 4. If something crazy was to happen, that's a team that's going to watch out for.
Cody, your turn.
Well, so I was shocked as hell that they put Georgia number 1. I'm glad they did. They deserve it. I'm glad to see Bama not number 1, and that makes it 4 straight years we've had a different team at the number 1 spot all 4 years of the CFB poll rankings, the initial rankings. However, all 4 years, the team that's number 1 has never won the national championship in the first ranking. So that's probably why, because they think Alabama's going to win the national championship, so they put them at number 2 and said, let's put somebody else number 1 just for kicks and giggles. And I don't know, maybe that's just my thinking. Georgia is scary good. I mean, scary good. Like, they have just about blown out every single team they play, except for Notre Dame, who is a top 4 team. They're number 3. They beat them by 1 point up in South Bend. And that is not an easy task to do. So that's a great win for them, and it's a good loss for Notre Dame. So it really matches up well with the number 3 matching for Notre Dame, who just beat a top 15, maybe they're now a top 20 NC State team. They blew them out of the water.
Yeah.
But looking through the schedule, Georgia, the first 2 games, Georgia won by 21 over App State the first week, and then by 1 over Notre Dame the second week. Since then, they've scored 42, 31, 41, 45, 53, and 42. That's amazing. In an SEC conference where they beat Mississippi State, who's ranked on the road 31, or they beat them at home 31-3, went to Tennessee and kicked everybody kicked everybody out of the water and out of Knoxville, kicked the babies, kicked the mothers, kicked the dogs, kicked everybody out of the Knoxville, blasted Vanderbilt, which Alabama did too, blasted Missouri, and killed Florida. So this team is really scary good on offense. And the defense, their most scored game was Missouri, where they gave up 28. You factor out of that, I mean, they gave up 19 to Notre Dame. They gave up 3 to Mississippi State, nothing to Tennessee, 14 to Vanderbilt, and 7 to Florida. I mean, this is just an all-around really, really good team. So I think they'll stay number 1 as long as they run the table. That Auburn game is going to be their biggest game of the year, and then they go to Georgia Tech at the end of the year. I think they'll blow them out of the water too. But Georgia, I think, will stay number 1 probably for the rest of the year. And it's really going to come down to that SEC title game, and that's where it's going to be the most hectic title game in history if they stay where they're at, as long as Alabama runs the table too. If Alabama loses by 3, you're going to put Alabama at 4. If Georgia loses by 3, you're going to put them at 4. Are we going to have what we had last year with having a non-conference winning team in the top 4 again? We'll see what that happens with that. Alabama at 2. Their best win is a 2-5 Florida State team right now. Sure, they look good. They're Alabama, so I get it. But that Iron Bowl at the end of the year, that's always going to be a tough matchup. So, I mean, they still have to prove something to me for them to be a really good, legitimate top 4 contender, even though I know that they should be. Notre Dame at 3 is an interesting one. They're really good. That one loss to Georgia is a good loss. They beat Notre Dame at home last week. And they do play Miami, I think, next week. So that's going to be an interesting matchup, and that would be one that would be, who knows if Miami wins that, what happens with them. But if Notre Dame loses again, they're definitely out, I think. And then us at 4, Clemson at 4. I mean, you factor into the first month of the season where we beat 3 straight top 15 programs in 3 straight weeks in September, the first team to ever do that. That alone in itself is top 4 worthy. Factor out of Louisville now being horrible as they are in the ACC, besides NC State, Clemson, Miami, Virginia Tech, the rest of the ACC is weak, very, very weak. Syracuse looks good, but the record does not indicate it. So factor out of Louisville, we still beat Auburn at home, and we went to Virginia Tech and beat up all over Virginia Tech. So I think we've easily got one of the best defenses in college football, and that's something to really consider. And I think that if they just turned Kelly Bryant loose and they turned that whole offense loose, we could easily put up 40 or 50 points a week. But when you score 21 and the other opponent has 3, it really feels like it's 75-0 because the defense is so good. So that's something to factor in too. I'm glad they didn't put Wisconsin in the top 4 because they're undefeated, because they beat nobody. They've literally beat nobody. Nobody that's even worthy. I think the best team they've beaten is a 5-3 MAC team or something like that. And, that to me is not worthy of being either in the top 6, really. I don't care if you're undefeated. If you beat somebody good, be up there. But if you really beat nobody to this point, why should you even be up there? The committee's going to have a hard time if these people start running the table here with like TCU or Oklahoma. Oklahoma looks really good. They could easily be in there. Penn State or Ohio State, one of them run the table and they win the Big Ten. That's going to be hard to determine who's going to get in there. It's not an easy time to really decide. I mean, this is a good first week, but I think it opens a door for madness to come should we get closer towards conference title play, and especially after conference title play, what kind of happens with that. And then another thing, too, this week you got a really big matchup between Virginia Tech and Miami. Now,
yeah, that's a big matchup.
If Virginia Tech wins, they're going to get the tiebreaker. And I believe they win the ACC Coastal or Atlantic. So they're already going to go to
the Coastal.
See, I don't get it. Anyways,
East-West works better.
It really does, but we don't have that. We're too complicated in the ACC. North-South would be easier.
Well, there you go. Yeah, that too.
So I think if Virginia Tech wins, they will, or if Miami wins, they're automatically going to go to the ACC title game. If Virginia Tech wins, they would own the tiebreaker should they run the table. Either way, that's going to be a tough matchup for the ACC title game, whether it's going to be NC State or Clemson. But if NC State beats Clemson and they run the table and win the ACC title game, where do you put them at? Yeah, they got blown up by Notre Dame, but, how much really do you factor losing to a top 3 team? So there's some chaos that could definitely happen. There's some chaos that I think, if teams just continue to win, it's just going to make it really harder. And this is why I think they need to go to a 16 playoff system.
Yeah,
I think 16 is the way to go. Has to be.
Yeah, you talking about Alabama just real quick. Let's look at their schedule real quick. These are their last 4 games. They got LSU this weekend, then they go to Mississippi State next week. Of course, they get Mercer, and then they got the Iron Bowl. 3 out of those 4 games they can be beat in. LSU's going to give them a good game this weekend.
Sure. Yep.
Mississippi State with Fitzgerald. Now, I did not watch the Kentucky-Mississippi State game, but from highlights that I've seen, they could be the real deal. But we'll just see. Like I said, for right now, there's 3 games for Alabama up in the air, so they can move out. That's what nobody's talking about. What about they lose one of these 3 games? What about they lose 2? They lose 2, they're gone. They're out. They can go somewhere else. But LSU, I feel like might upset them this weekend. I'm going to put Alabama on the upset alert. I'm really going to.
Would you
go ahead?
Let's say if they lose, they're in LSU this week, or are they home?
They're at home. They're at home to LSU.
Okay, so if they're home in Alabama, or home against LSU, home against Mercer, they go on the road in Mississippi State and Auburn?
Yes, correct.
What if they run the table, lose to a Mississippi State team by 10 or more?
And you still go to the SEC championship game?
You still go to the SEC title game. They beat Auburn, or that probably wouldn't be as hard. You lose to Auburn.
There you go.
Auburn goes to the SEC title game if they run the table. They face Georgia. Then what do you do?
See, that's where you're going to get everybody. You see what I'm saying? I agree with you. I've always said the playoffs should be an 8 team. 8 to 10, just the top 10. I think, college football, we're talking about the playoffs, and every year you're going to have – first it was the computers. Oh, the computers are wrong. Now you have the ranking system, all this stuff and the playoffs. I think if you just move it to the top 10 teams or 10 teams, top 8, 10 teams, kind of like a March Madness type deal with it.
Exactly.
You got these bowl games, that you're going to go to, have them as your playoff game. Oh, okay, here's a 1 versus 10. And you just keep going down the line from there. 1 versus 10, 2 versus 9, stuff like that. Then you can out of 10 teams, 8 or 10 teams, you can really decide who is the best 2 college football teams in the nation. For right now, you got 4 teams. I don't like it. I think it needs to expand a little bit, but because like you said, Cody, if Alabama was somehow to lose to Auburn and they get kicked out of the FC title game, where does it put Alabama after that? So I think if you have a top 10 team like playoff, then you still get these 1-loss teams in there that's like a Miami that could sneak up on you and beat you and make a title game. I think that's how they should do it, the March Madness way.
Yeah, absolutely.
I see. My only thing with that is I mean, if you do it that way, are you basically making up games or making up different bowl games just to do this? Or are you implicating – because if you do it that way, if you do 10, you have 6 New Year 6 bowl games. So that means you could do 5 of them being in the top 10. And then you have 2 more that you determine the other 2. My thing is and I kind of agree with that because it would limit the way having to worry about if a 6-6 team, probably a 500 team shouldn't really get to a bowl game. Like just because you played 500 doesn't necessarily mean you should get to a bowl game. But for teams, because I know that they've had this issue where they've had to put a 5-win team into a bowl game.
Oh yeah,
that would eliminate that completely and make you really have to win more games to get to a bowl game, which would be great. My only problem with that is scheduling. That's the national champion would have to play 3 games, 4 games, 1 versus 10. You're doing it down to an 8.
Yeah, you have to play
4 games.
4 games. 4 games. Yeah, 4 games.
And in college, that would really start an uproar regarding paying scholarships, paying athletes. They're going to have to say something about that, or the scheduling conflict of how could you fit all this into where you're resting these people. And then, I know that after, they do the winter break in December or early January, so you don't have to worry about final exams.
Right.
For new classes starting up, for new enrollees coming in, stuff like that, and then scheduling with the Super Bowl and the NFL playoffs. That just could be a whole big mess. But, I do agree. We all do agree they do expand it. I'm on the fence of a 6 to 8 team playoff. That's just, I don't know.
Just anything better than 4.
I agree with that.
Absolutely.
I agree with that.
So I'll give my thoughts, but I just want to continue on that. I personally, to me, outside of the New Year's 6 bowl games, the rest of the bowl games mean absolutely nothing. You got like the Orange Bowl and stuff like that. So to me, take away these meaningless bowl games and do like a March Madness tournament style. You don't have to do like Jake said 10. I would look at, to me, like a 32-team tournament where
that's a lot.
You take the top 32 teams, and then because the season ends November, so throughout December and January, you can do this tournament sort of like a March Madness. Because again, these late November, early December bowl games mean absolutely nothing. Make those games watchable again. I'm probably the only person in the world that actually wants that, but I think because you got a lot of teams outside of the playoffs that are good teams, and I think just looking at the criteria the committee looks at, while I think they're getting better at it, I still think teams have gotten robbed of. So I think, we've all reached agreement that it needs to be bigger than 4. I think you expand it to 8 and try that, and then if it works, I'm all for a 32-team tournament. But on this top 4, y'all have talked about Alabama and Georgia. I'm just going to Feinbaum, who's the biggest idiot I've ever heard in my life, just to throw that out there.
I agree strongly.
He was complaining that Alabama got robbed of a number 1 because they played at the time a number 3 school in Florida State and destroyed them. He just needs to get his head out of Saban's
his arse.
And then maybe his hair would grow if he got his hair or his head out of there. But I think personally, I think Alabama and Georgia run the table, win all the games that go to the SEC championship. And I think both of those teams get in. One will be a 1 seed, one will be the 4 seed. That's just the way I look at it. So my 2 wild card teams, I think Clemson's more safer. To me, Notre Dame is my wild card because of their remaining schedule. They play Wake Forest this week. That's not hard. That's an easy win. Next week's their toughest game. They get Miami. I think Miami can beat them in that game. Then they go to Navy, which is always a good game. And then they end the season against a ranked Stanford team. So Notre Dame, I think, has the toughest path to keep in the top 4. So with that, I think I'm glad Georgia is ranked 1. They have a better resume, like Cody showed with with their scores. They're a monster. They're putting up Madden style points week in and week out. And then you got Bama, who's Bama. They're always going to be in there as long as they win games. I'm really hoping, for some reason, Mercer can somehow pull out an upset. I really just.
Listen, this isn't Appalachian State versus Michigan.
But we all know that's not going to happen. I think Clemson. I think once we get past this week in NC State, we can run the table. Because we got Florida State, Citadel, and South Carolina. So,
what do y'all play South Carolina at?
In Columbia.
In Columbia. It's a tough one, but
I mean, I still see y'all winning, but it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be one of those grinding games. I mean, it's a rivalry game. Every rivalry game, I mean, it doesn't matter. Any rival that you play, whatever the record is, it doesn't matter. All records are out the window. It's a rivalry game.
Absolutely.
Your record at that point is 0-0. That's the way I've always looked at a rival. You're 0-0. You're playing that team, and you got to beat your in-state rival. You know,
I just hope that Jake Bentley is playing, so that way Christian Wilkins and Dexter Lawrence, Kendall Joseph, Cleveland Farrell, everybody just has their own little sack party, and we destroy him and gobble him up.
I mean, just watch the Kentucky tape. That's all you have to do.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So
that's all you have to do.
So, last question on the rankings, and then we'll move on from this. Cody mentioned Wisconsin. My question, and I think the biggest question surrounding the rankings is, I actually have 2 questions. First one is, should undefeated teams be treated with a heavier, whereas like Cody said, Wisconsin, first off, that conference is garbage outside of Wisconsin and Ohio State?
Well, it's a Big Ten, so it's Penn State, Ohio State, and Wisconsin.
Wisconsin's probably best win, like you said, was probably against like a Rutgers team, which no one actually cares about Rutgers. But unless you're Bill Belichick, then you draft all their players. But aside from that, should undefeated teams that don't have big conference wins, should they be treated and looked at heavily because of the record, or should the resume say, like, because you got a team like Clemson and Notre Dame in there who have 1 loss, but they were outside of Clemson. Clemson's resume is the reason it got the loss, and then Notre Dame lost to the #1 team in the country. So should the record play a heavier part, or should the resume play a heavier part? It's basically the question. And Cody basically told it what he believes already, but you can state it again.
Further elaborate that. So, no, I mean, it's all about strength of schedule. Eye test, strength of schedule, things of that nature, how you handled if you have a loss, who is it to, how much you lost by, stuff like that. Let's run down. I want to get a comparison too. So I know where you asked a question about Wisconsin. I'm going to talk about them, but I also want to bring in somebody else as well, another team. But we'll first do with Wisconsin. This is who they played thus far, and they're undefeated. Florida Atlantic, BYU, so they beat a bunch of Mormons.
It's a big win, though.
It's a big win. Yeah, not really. BYU, Northwestern, Nebraska, who is 4-4, Purdue, and they beat Maryland and they beat Illinois. So to this point, they've beaten really nobodies. Really nobodies. Their biggest games of the season is this week, and or not this week, because they have a bye week this week. It's next week and the week after. They have Iowa at home on the 11th, and they have Michigan the following week. But they're home both games. If they win both games, then yes, I can see them logistically being in the top, maybe not top 4, but at least in the top 6 or 7. I could see that.
Okay.
The other person that I want to kind of focus on just a little bit, and I don't agree really with them being in the top 10, is Miami. I don't think they should really, as of this point right now, shouldn't be in the top 10 because they beat a Bethune-Cookman team. They canceled their game with Arkansas State. They beat Toledo. They beat Duke. Florida State is garbage, and they only won by 4. They literally almost lost to Georgia Tech, and I understand Georgia Tech is there, but they're really not that good either. They only beat them by 1, and then they allowed the Syracuse team at home in the ball game all game long until they finally had a fourth quarter stance, and then they literally almost lost to a 1-win UNC team. You should not lose, or you should not only win by 7 points over somebody who's only got 1 win or 2 wins. Sure, they may be a little bit dangerous because they have nothing to lose, but at the same time, you're a better program than that. You should be beating them pretty bad. Notre Dame and Virginia Tech are Miami's 2 biggest games of the season. If they win both games, they probably could be within the top 5 or 6, maybe even 4, depending on how we do. And then that ACC title game is going to determine if they run the table, Miami does, and Clemson runs the table, they're going to face up in the ACC title game. That'll determine who's going to get that 4th seed, if not the 3rd seed, easily. So up to this point, Miami's number 10 ranking, I guess it's better suited than Wisconsin's rating. But I don't think that obviously the undefeated mark should not be, a point of saying, oh, they're undefeated, we should put them in the top 10. Okay, well, let's at least look at who they've beaten. Miami has a little bit more leniency than Wisconsin, but even then, they should be really close together, not one's a little bit further ahead than the other.
Absolutely. Your perspective on this, Jake?
I think, just like I said earlier, I mean, we do it in basketball, do it in football, go off strength of schedule. Strength of schedule is everything. Everything. I mean, to me, you do look at, some, like Cody was saying, you look at Wisconsin, who's played nobody. Should they be in the top 10? No, no reason why they're in the top 10 is because they're undefeated. That's the only reason why. But you should go off strength of schedule. I think, in my personal opinion, that's the way college basketball does it. You go off your strength of schedule and how bad you beat opponents. That's the way basketball looks at it. It's the way football should. I mean, I guess that's how they look at it. If you're like a Wisconsin, you've played nobody. It'd be like Kentucky going out here and playing nobody in basketball. If you play nobody in basketball, are you really worthy of let's say, an overall number 1 seed in March Madness? Well, no, because you've really not played anybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you play somebody out of conference, you should play. They should be decent. I mean, I'm not saying like of course, teams got a schedule like a Mercer or whatever. Them teams get checks and go. Yeah. They get them and go. You look at Troy. I mean, Troy beat LSU, and LSU's back in the top 25. But like I said, strength of schedule, I think that's important. It's always been important to me, especially in football, and same way in basketball. It's very important for strength of schedule. You look at teams like that. Win-loss record shouldn't be looked at. In my personal opinion, shouldn't be looked at. Like Cody said, 8-0 Wisconsin team. Who have you beat? I'm sorry, you've really not beat anybody. But at the end of the day, we should go off strength of schedule, not wins and losses. Because there's a lot of teams out there we could say, hey, they're better than them, but you can't tell because of the strength, who they played. So once these teams, like I said, we're getting into what the nitty gritty here in the grinding mode of the last 4 games of the year, where these teams need to pick it up if they want to. And then I think this right here proves that some teams need to schedule a little bit harder. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. I mean, I don't know. I look at it from a basketball standpoint as well. You look at teams that, whoever you play in basketball, whoever your team plays in basketball, like, for instance, Kentucky plays Kansas, Louisville, Virginia Tech in basketball this year. You look at all the teams that we play, and then you look back on how they're going to play. Kansas is always going to be in the tournament. That's a given, So, but it goes down the strength of schedule and who you beat. And who the other teams beat as well. That's another thing too. To me, I think if a team like, just for instance, let's say Tennessee. Say Tennessee beats. I'm just going to rant. I mean, this is stupid, but say Tennessee beat Alabama. Where would you put Alabama? You know, because at the same time, I think you just got to look at both. Who, like, if you're going to compare teams, look at who they played, look at both strength of schedules. That's the way I look at it. Just no records. Throw them out. Just throw them out and put your strength of schedules and on all that and RPI. I gotta say RPI because that's basketball, but it's true. I'm done with it.
I think one thing to also, and I know you maybe mentioned maybe the rankings and I didn't look at it. So Wisconsin and Miami are both right in front of each other. Wisconsin's ninth and Miami's 10th. But there's a vast difference if you look at the way Wisconsin and Miami have played and won over those teams versus Georgia, like you said. It's all about strength of schedule too, and I agree with that. You look at, and I kind of run down the Georgia score line. I mean, there's a reason they're number one, and they're undefeated. Alabama is always going to be right up there because they're Alabama. It's just hard to get them out of that. But then you look at teams like Miami and Wisconsin. If they had beaten more opponents by a lot bigger margins, they probably should be moved up and probably could compete for that number 4 spot. Whereas, I mean, most of these teams are 1- and 2-loss teams in the top 10. So your margin for error, in my opinion, for a Wisconsin and Miami team, yours is a lot more than an Ohio State, Penn State, TCU, Clemson, Oklahoma, Notre Dame team. We all have 1 loss that are in that top 10. But if we lose one, especially in Notre Dame, Clemson, Oklahoma, it's going to be virtually no way you're going to get back into that top 4. Teams like a Wisconsin, Miami, they're undefeated. So you should be thinking, well, if we have 1 loss, it really shouldn't kill us too bad, but it will. Because you got too many teams ahead of you that if they run the table, they're going to jump. They're going to get overlooked. They're going to look at them more than you two. So I think they kind of, I won't say shot themselves in the foot, but I mean, that's where you have to really consider, okay, we're 3-0, we're 4-0. How have we looked thus far? We need to keep putting the pedal on the metal. We need to keep winning these games by a big margin. If we're not beating these big name teams or these teams that aren't ranked, we've got to do a better job at showing people why we should be in the top 10, top 5, top 4.
Absolutely. With that, I agree with everything that y'all said. Though I lean more on I like strength of schedule. I think that's important. And then, but I also think record, to me, it should be like 75% strength of schedule and like 25% record. That's why I was really surprised Wisconsin was ranked 9th. I thought they'd be ranked high. I didn't expect them in the top 4. But I know they haven't played anybody, but I've always said the Big Ten is the toughest conference to play, and just because all the teams are equally just as bad once you get outside of Ohio State and Michigan State, those are the 3 most consistently good teams. Outside of that, they're all sort of on the same level, whereas in the ACC, you got Clemson, Florida State on a good year, Miami, Virginia Tech, and then that's about it. And then all the other teams are complete garbage, so there's no real competition in the ACC. The SEC is getting more competitive, especially with teams like Kentucky and South Carolina rebuilding, and Vanderbilt still at the bottom.
Vanderbilt's always going to be a cellar dweller, man. They're always. I don't care if they'll have a good first 3-4 games and then go right back down to the cellar, back down to the basement.
Absolutely, yeah.
Kansas of the SEC.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Didn't even know Kansas was still at FBS, but
I don't know why they are.
Because basketball, man. Basketball. That's why.
Yeah, and so that brings up my last question.
Well, that's a different topic for a different day.
Yes.
Brings up my last question. Notre Dame, no conference in football.
Boy, it's funny how you were getting ready to mention that.
No conference in football. Though they're required
now.
Now.
ACC in basketball, though.
Yeah. Okay. So they stayed unaffiliated in football because NBC pays, or they
own the rights.
NBC owns the rights to, so they'll always be on TV.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they're required because every other sport they're ACC, they're required to play 5 ACC games, and they always choose chump schools like Wake Forest and Miami. They play Clemson again in 2020. This one's in South Bend. I really want to go, just because. It's because of the atmosphere of South Bend. Like they played in Clemson. I would have loved to go to that game. I'm glad I didn't because it was a torrential downpour. But with Notre Dame not being in a conference, with Notre Dame not playing in a conference, does that make it more difficult to say, hey, you deserve to get in the playoffs out of like an Ohio State or Oklahoma, who now are going to have conference championship games where they play in a conference and they win their conference, whereas Notre Dame just has to go. They can choose whoever they want to play. So does that make it harder for the committee to say, hey, Notre Dame should be in there or should not?
It does. I think it's always been a problem with Notre Dame not having a conference championship game. I think that hurts them. It really does.
Absolutely.
It really hurts them. When this whole thing went down with Notre Dame going to the ACC, because what conference was they in basketball? Is what in the
Big East.
Yeah,
then
the Big East.
The Big East like separated all
it's the American Conference, something like that.
The AAC. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I think Notre Dame should be in a conference. To be honest with you,
Absolutely.
I know it's the independent thing, and BYU's is independent now and all that, but it's time now. We live in a new age that you should be in a conference. If your basketball program, your baseball program, I don't care what programs, if all your programs except for football is in one conference, your football needs to be in the ACC. I'm sorry. It's the way it should work. You shouldn't get special treatment because, you're Notre Dame and you've always been independent. Well, I mean, but you got other sports that play in conferences, So that's the way I think it needs to be. I think since now they've moved to the ACC with, every other sport except for football, I think the football should be thrown in there.
Absolutely.
Because it would help the ACC out.
Yeah.
It would help.
And then
it would help them out with football. I mean, some people might disagree, and that's fine. But I think personally myself, it would help Notre Dame. It would help the ACC. I mean, there's a lot of things that could help. There's just no conference. There's no bowl or conference title game for them, and that could hurt them
in the long run.
In the long run. By the time we get to the actual rebuilding of the top 4 teams, let's say Ohio State wins the Big Ten. Should they move front up in Notre Dame? I think they should because they won a conference title. That's me. If you play in a conference and you win your conference title like Ohio State and you're ranked number 6. Who's 5? Who is number 5? I don't even remember who's number 5.
Number 5 is, I want to say it's Ohio State.
5, yeah, because then 6 is Penn State.
Yeah. So who's 5?
Oklahoma's 5. Oklahoma's 5.
Okay. So there you go. So I'm like I said, I don't know. They just need to be moving in the conference. I think it helps them.
So I agree that they should be in a conference, and it would definitely help them out. However, some of the teams that they do face really good scheduling, in my opinion. In a way, it does.
Yeah, but they only count those games because it's tradition.
Sure, but if you look at them, like for instance, they lost to Georgia by 1. That's the number 1 team in the country. That's their good loss, obviously. They beat Notre Dame. Or I'm sorry, they beat Notre Dame. Idiot. They beat Michigan State in Michigan State. Michigan State's a ranked team. They beat USC. USC is a ranked team. They beat NC State. NC State's a ranked team. They're going to be facing Miami in Miami. That's a ranked team. And then they're going to be facing Stanford in Stanford. That's another ranked team. That's a lot of ranked teams that they're facing in one season. And yeah, I get that. While I do agree that they should be in a conference, and some of these games are traditional and stuff like that, at least they're tough components. Yeah, they do have a lot of cupcake schedules, and some of the ACC teams are not that good and stuff like that. But that's 1 Stanford, 2 Miami, 3 NC State, 4 USC, 5 Michigan State, 6 Georgia. Out of their 12 games, half of them are against ranked teams. That's a pretty good schedule. That's a really tough schedule. And so that's why it looks good, definitely, with the committee, with the polling. it makes sense why they're in the position that they're in. At the same time, I think it kind of falls under, well, what about in the past, a Big 12 team? Sure, they were in a conference, but they didn't have a conference title game. They went away with it. So whoever was the regular season champion, that was the conference champion. I hated that they didn't have a conference title game, but now they're coming back to it, so it makes sense now. With Notre Dame, I do think, especially if you're already, and I get the TV coverage stuff and whatever, work out a deal with the ACC. I mean, I guess that they have the ACC network. I don't think they have had it yet. Maybe they do. I don't think so. Not yet.
I thought they did. I thought there was an ACC
It's
network.
2020.
As I say, it's coming around. So work out a schedule with them. Work out something with them in TV coverage deals. I know that NBC would have probably a little more stroke than ESPN and whoever's running the ACC network. You know, work out a schedule with them that every single Notre Dame game has to be on NBC, or just about everyone. Because I know that there used to be in the past, there used to be Notre Dame games on ESPN, like with the Clemson Notre Dame game. That was an ESPN game or an ABC game. So work out a schedule, work out money deals with them, because if you can put them on different networks and be okay with it, you know, pay a royalty fee, pay something to where you guys can come on a commonality agreement, so that way Notre Dame can finally be in a conference, and it means a lot more to be better in your conference, to be better in a conference title game where it means more.
Yeah, and so my whole argument, my dad's a Notre Dame fan, so I've argued this all the time with them ever since all their other sports left the Big East to the ACC because of the whole breakup of the conference, because the Catholic schools wanted it one way and the non-Catholic schools didn't. So now we got another conference in basketball that is unnecessary. But anyway, when Notre Dame joined ACC, I was like, just add the football team. The ACC then released, hey, 2020, we're releasing our own network like the SEC network. So I was like, you don't need NBC backing, because if you join the ACC, you'll have your own network. More than likely, as long as you remain a good team, you'll be shown. And then Notre Dame fans' other argument is, well, all our games are tradition. The Michigan States, the Stanford, the Southern Cals, they're all tradition. Make those your non-conference games. Switch them in and out. You can still have your big rivalry at the end of the year against Stanford or USC out of conference like Clemson does. I think they should have always been in the ACC. I mean, if Navy can join a conference before you do, that's kind of sad. Because I get why Navy and Army aren't in a conference, because they're the military schools. They don't really have any affiliation with anybody. BYU does it because they suck. But I mean, Notre Dame, and again, I think it's a good deal for Notre Dame, because if they join the ACC football is as high as it's ever been. You'll get prestige by joining it, and it adds to the competition of the ACC. We'll have 5 decent teams, 6 decent teams in the conference. It'll make the scheduling a lot harder. The only thing I think is if they join it, divisions will be unequal, and we'll need another team to join. So other than that, that's the only difficulty to me that's stopping it. So with that, this is not an episode of Unhinged if we don't do predictions. So I picked 5 games from each, the NFL and the college football. We'll start with the NFL first, because there's not a lot of good games to pick from. So we'll do the sucky ones first. So tonight, we get the team in New York everyone forgot about, and that's the Jets. And Kelvin Benjamin makes his debut tonight as Buffalo plays New York. Who wins that game?
Jets.
Cody?
It's Jets and Bills, right?
Yep.
Going with the Bills.
Circling around them wagons.
I'm going to have to go with Cody on this one. I'm picking Buffalo. Just because I absolutely hate the Jets. Just that's the only reason why.
Good enough reason.
The next game, probably the best game of the week, in my opinion, is Atlanta versus Carolina. Go ahead and just mark Carolina for Jake. We're not going to ask him.
Yeah.
Cody, your opinion on this one?
Man, this is gonna be tough. This is gonna be a good game. Boy, I'm telling you, I think now with the Kelvin Benjamin thing that the offense may be a little bit more fluent, won't be as gnarly as it had been with KB in there. And at the same time, though, man, Atlanta's Atlanta. They look good still. It's a pivotal matchup either way. I'm gonna go with Carolina. I'm gonna go with Carolina.
Let's make that a clean sweep. I think it's the first time me and Cody picked Carolina, agreeing with Jake. I'm going Carolina as well. I think I see Jake smile over there.
This is not a good thing right now. This is not a good thing for him to have all of us pick Carolina.
All right, so the next game, with the new quarterback, I don't even know who the quarterback is for Denver anymore. It's probably going to be Chad Kelly.
It's Brock Osweiler.
Osweiler? Well, they're taking on the league leaders, Philadelphia Eagles. I don't think this is a competition, but who do you guys pick?
Eagles.
Cody?
Yep, the Eagles as well.
Same here, Philadelphia. I think they moved to 8-1. And like I said, barring the biggest choke act I've ever seen, Philadelphia wins that division and probably number 1 seed. Next game, the Raiders go to Miami. Who wins that? I think that's an easy matchup as well.
Raiders.
Cody?
Gotta go. Just win, baby. Raiders.
Unless somehow, I mean, the game is played in Miami. Unless they, like, spike the water with that good cocaine the coaches have. That's the only way I see Miami winning. So I had to bring it up. We haven't done a show since that incident. So I had to bring it up. Yeah, I pick Oakland.
Well, I mean, they made the stupidest trade, and it was like, hold my cocaine, and then Carolina comes in and is like, no, hold my beer. Hold my beer. Hold my beer. I got you.
All right. And big in division rivalry here on, I think it's Monday night.
Yeah,
Detroit plays Aaron Rodgers-less Green Bay Packers.
Going Lions. Won't go Lions. They look good.
That's a tough one. It's at Lambeau. That's a tough place to play. Packers, I mean,
yeah, they don't have Aaron Rodgers. That should be the easiest pick you've ever made in your life.
I realize that, but you never know with these things. Detroit's prone to stuff happening. I'll go Detroit. Just say
Same here. I don't like this. I think we agreed on every pick but the first one. I don't like that.
We really have. This is scary. This is really scary.
Now, we go to the NCAA football, where we got 5 really good matchups. I think pivotal matchups in terms of ranking. They're all top 25 teams here. So the first one, I think the biggest game out of all of them, Clemson versus NC State.
Clemson.
Cody?
I'm telling you right now, man, I am nervous about this game. I'm glad it's a 3 o'clock game. It'll end under the lights, but Clemson?
Clemson? I'm nervous too. We struggle against NC State in general. Always in Raleigh though, they play good. I'm hoping we study Notre Dame's tape from last week, expose that running game. Hopefully ETN can hold on to the football this week.
It's not raining, hopefully, so it should be fine.
Yeah. So I'm going Clemson, but it's going to be by the smallest of margins.
It's going to be a good game.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Next game, Penn State goes to Michigan State. In a game that if Penn State loses, I think any opportunity for them to get in, completely ruined. So what do you guys think?
You're going Michigan State or PSU?
I'm going PSU.
PSU. I'm going PSU.
I'm going to take the upset and go Michigan State.
I was really on the fence about it, but I was like, you know what?
I can see it happening.
It's in East Lansing, and I can just see it.
That's one of the things I can see happening, but just the way Penn State has played, I'm just gonna. Hopefully, they play the same way. They're not the Hackenberg Penn State that they were, where you would expect them to lose. But next game, rivalry in-state rival Oklahoma versus Oklahoma State.
Give me Mike Gundy. I'm a man. I'm going with Oklahoma State.
Cody?
Going OU. I'm going OU. They look really good. I mean, Oklahoma State looks good too, but I'm going OU.
I'm going with the team in which I think has the best quarterback in college football. How about them Cowboys?
Not Dallas Cowboys.
Not at all.
Yeah. Let's make sure we get that right. It's not the Dallas one. Oklahoma State.
Yeah, how about Oklahoma State? Exactly. I like the quarterback. I think he should be the number one drafted quarterback. He won't be, but he should. Next game, the Louisiana State University, also known as LSU, heads into Alabama. Where do you guys have this game?
Told you that was my upset right there. LSU.
Cody?
I'm a conservative in both my political aspirations and sometimes in picks, so I'm gonna go Alabama. Alabama. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
First, looking at this game, I wanted to pick Bama, but now let's looking at it and how I think LSU likes playing the upset. I really think they have nothing really to play for. They lost to Troy. I think really.
I'd say they sure do like playing the upset because they got upset by Troy. So I mean,
the game with Troy really, I think, inspired them.
That was a wake-up call.
So, that better have been a wake-up call.
That was a wake-up call. Losing on homecoming.
With all that said, I still think the Tide roll. So go Bama.
The Tide rolls.
And finally, the last game. We can't not do this game. I think it's going to play a pivotal, like Cody said, in the Coastal Division. Virginia Tech versus Miami.
I'm on the fence about this.
This is the hardest game I think I have had to choose.
Yeah.
It's just so hard to pick.
Why you got?
Come back to me.
Why will you guys make it harder than it should be? It's the hardest game Miami's ever had to play this year. Virginia Tech easily steamrolls them.
Oh, come on now.
I'm not on the Miami hype, not at all.
I'm gonna go Virginia Tech. I think they've been playing good football, especially after they lost to you guys. They've been playing really good football.
Like, I'm just not on the Miami hype train. I think, you've read the schedule. Who have they played?
I get that.
And like you said,
they really haven't played many people, and they've let some bad teams into the game, so they should win easily.
And then it's under the lights against a team like Virginia Tech, who I've been playing good football since they've got ran out of their own stadium by Clemson.
I mean, they did beat North Carolina 59-7, where Miami barely beat them.
I think this is the easiest game out of all of them that we've had to pick.
You know what? This is probably the biggest game Miami's played in years, and it's under the lights. It's in Miami, so let's go for them. Virginia Tech does look really good. They have since the Clemson loss. They even did before the Clemson loss. They've been a pretty solid team. I just want to face somebody else a little bit different in the ACC title game. So I'm going to go Miami.
I can see that. All right. I'm going to end it with one more question, just for the heck of it. This question. What is your biggest take from the college football season so far? This is one thing. You don't have to make it long. Just your biggest take from what you've seen college football-wise. Whoever wants to start. I'll go last to end the show.
Crazy things have happened, and surprise Kentucky's record is 6-2. That's the shocking thing for me.
Cody.
I'm going to say that Georgia easily looks like the best team in college football. I don't think coming into the season, nobody probably thought that. So college football scene has been shaken up this year. Got an interesting top 4, interesting top 10. Georgia's at the top of it. That's shocking. It's probably the biggest takeaway for me so far.
All right, and for me, it's the way the ACC is shaken out. Definitely did not see it happen. I saw Clemson being at the top, but I saw Florida State, Louisville being at the top, and that completely changed when Francois went down and Louisville just got exposed by Clemson. And then I don't know if you guys remember me or Cody doing the Clemson prediction show. I want to say I told you so with NC State success because no one believed me when I said NC State would play as good as they have. And then I want to tell you how disappointed I am in Virginia because I bought into their hype at the
Everybody
first.
bought into their hype. Come on now.
They started off 4-0, then lost the last 6 games. So that's to me the biggest takeaway is the ACC. I think is the best overall conference in football. And the way that it's gone down this year just completely shocked me out. I thought Florida State would be the team to win that. And with any final comments?
Virginia is 5-3, by the way.
They're 5-3. Yeah. Anyway, any final comments before we go off there?
Well, baseball season is over with. Now we got full swing in football, almost getting ready for basketball. Good time of the year.
Yes, it's a good time. If y'all want, I'm open to doing a college basketball preview show. Just because it's that time of year again. See Cody shaking his head there.
We can we getting that here soon. We're gonna get in that here soon. I got a lot to talk about with basketball. Basketball's gonna be fun this year. I love basketball, man. It's gonna be fun.
Cody don't do basketball, so I'm gonna look like an idiot saying these teams that I don't know who they are.
It's all right.
I'm out on that one. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Cody.
I mean, that's what happens when Clemson doesn't have a basketball program. But
you're right.
But I mean, they should. I mean, hey, we have the same thing. You all want a basketball program. I want a football program. But I want to have both. I don't want to have just one.
We'll be lucky if we even hit 500.
You never know. Know.
Hey,
I do know. We ain't hit 500 this year.
Hey, I think we surprised the nation. I think we finally make the tournament this year. I really think we do. I think we do. I think we shocked the world.
No, shocking the world is beating UNC up in Chapel Hill. That's shocking the world because we've never beaten them in Chapel Hill.
Have y'all ever beat Duke at Duke?
Nope.
I think we have once. They haven't mentioned that one. They've just mentioned UNC.
Hey, I know how streaks feel, man. Streaks suck.
All right. We want to thank everyone for watching this episode of Unhinged. Social media is the same. We don't have to waste the 5.5 minutes to do that. Just hit us up on Facebook at Outlaw Sports Network. No one ever uses the Twitter page, so we're not even going to mention that.
Oh, jeez.
His name is Cody. The other guy's name is Jake. My name is Randall. Thanks for watching Unhinged, and we'll see you the next time we decide to do one of these.